This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Nissan is in deep trouble and CEO Makoto Uchida is struggling to hold on to his job. Global sales have fallen from 5 million a year when he took over in 2019 to only 3.3 million this year, a 34% drop. And the stock price is down 43%, which is the worst performance of Nissan stock under any CEO over the last 5 decades. The company is now a target of activist investors, and they don't like CEOs who destroy shareholder value. One big problem Nissan faces is that it doesn't sell any hybrids in the US, which has been its most profitable market. Uchida's response is to cut global production capacity, slash costs, and lay off thousands of employees. But that may be too little too late, and those activist investors are almost certainly going to try and push him out. And to show you just how desperate the situation at Nissan is, Automotive News reports that Infiniti dealers in the US can now co-locate their stores with Nissan outlets. Infiniti's sales have fallen 51% in the last 5 years, and so far this year, Infiniti dealers are only selling about 1 car a day on average, and they're all losing money. By co-locating stores, they can combine their back office operations and cut costs significantly. But what Infiniti really needs is an updated product lineup. The US is fast approaching a tipping point where a lot more people will consider getting an EV. And that's because the number of public fast chargers is ramping up fast. In 2020, only 28% of the most heavily traveled roads in the US had a fast charger within 50 miles of them. Today, it's 59%, and by the end of next year, it will be 70%, according to the Department of Transportation, which is when that tipping point will happen. There are over 200,000 fast chargers in the US today, and there will be 500,000 by 2030. And as if to put an exclamation point on that, General Motors and EVgo announced they have more than 2,350 kilowatt DC fast chargers installed at 390 locations in 45 metropolitan areas. The chargers are located in shopping areas, coffee shops, and dining destinations near interstate highways, as well as city centers and apartments. The charging stations are co-branded as EVgo and GM, and the goal is to build another 850 of them. The EU is trying to tamp down a flood of Chinese EVs into Europe with its new import tariffs. But those tariffs don't include hybrids, so now that's what they're shipping. Automakers are ramping up exports of China-made hybrids to Europe, with one analyst forecasting that those shipments will go up 20% this year and continue to grow in 2025. Sales of plug-in hybrids, especially extended range electrics or EREVs, have really taken off in China. So much so that automakers are now introducing EREV versions of models that launched as BEV only. And we think that's another area where Chinese automakers will attack the European market. Looks like November car sales in the US came in better than expected. While many automakers only publicly report sales on a quarterly basis, the numbers are actually available to select outlets. And global data reports that total sales hit 1.37 million vehicles, up a very healthy 12%. And the SAAR came in at 16.7 million units, which is the strongest it's been all year. And right on cue, Ford reported its sales, which were up more than 14%, and it just set a monthly sales record with EV sales up 20% to 10,821 vehicles.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Genesis is pulling back the reins on its EV push. It had planned to only introduce new EVs after next year and go fully electric by the end of the decade. But instead, next year it will start introducing hybrids to its ICE models and then go to EREVs, which according to some reports could come out as early as 2027. Not only will its lineup be more in tune with market demand, but because EREVs are considered close to BEVs in terms of North American environmental standards, Genesis should still be able to meet its emission targets. The word is the range extender will first go into the GV70 SUV, which will be built at the Hyundai Group's new plant in Georgia instead of Alabama, where the GV70 is currently built. And in other Genesis news, it announced it's getting into endurance racing, revealed a wild new hybrid race car, and built a brand new team called Genesis Magma Racing to run it all. It will field 2 cars in the hypercar and LMDH categories, first in the WEC series in 2026, and then in IMSA in 2027. By adjusting the rules a couple of years ago to allow similar spec cars to run in both racing series, organizers got more participation from the car companies and will now have 7 participants, including Genesis. Well, this is pretty bizarre. A group of UAW organizers is striking against the union, claiming it's not bargaining in good faith. They also want job security and protections for temporary workers who work on 3-month contracts for up to 3 years. They want higher wages, severance payments, a 2-month layoff notice, and sick days for temps. The UAW claims it has been bargaining in good faith and that it offered 2 proposals addressing the concerns. But that didn't stop the strike. And what a coincidence, fighting over temp workers. These are almost the same issues that the UAW used against the Detroit 3 last year in contract negotiations, which eventually led to strikes that cost the automakers billions of dollars in lost production. Jeep is significantly cutting the price of its all-electric Avenger SUV in Europe. When it launched last year, it had a starting price around $45,000. But the automaker is slashing that by over $6,000, and it now starts at over $38,000. The Avenger is now cheaper than the Volvo EX30 and Mini Aceman electric, and its price is about the same as the Ford Puma Gen E that launched earlier this week. By slashing the price, Stellantis seems to be dumping former CEO Carlos Tavares' strategy for improving margins in favor of going for sales. BYD is putting its vehicle-to-home function to good use. It partnered with local governments in Japan to use the bidirectional charging capability of its EVs at 10 of its dealerships in the country to power places like shelters and hospitals during natural disasters. While Japan has made deals with other automakers for relief efforts during natural disasters, those have typically been with local companies. So, this could be a way for a Chinese automaker to get on the good side of Japanese buyers. Foreign automakers have never really had any sales success in Japan. BYD first started selling cars there in January of 2023, but through September of this year, it's sold less than 1,800 units. And here's something we found interesting. Amtrak set an all-time ridership record this year with 32.8 million passengers using its trains. That brought in $2.5 billion in ticket revenue, up 9% from a year ago, and it posted a total operating revenue of $3.6 billion, a 7% gain. Amtrak also invested $4.5 billion to improve infrastructure to support future growth. It's aiming to double its ridership to 66 million passengers by 2040. And it's surprising to see Americans flocking back to trains. If you want to learn more about the Scout brand's strategy to hit the market, you won't want to miss Autoline After Hours today. We've got Chris Benjamin, the Chief Design Officer of Scout, coming on the show, and it will be fascinating to hear about how he and his team went about reviving a brand that went out of the market in 1980. And Chris has a great design background, including stints at BMW Design Works, Volvo, and at Jeep. So, join John and Gary when the show goes live on our website and YouTube channel at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today. But that's a wrap for today's show. Thanks for tuning in.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Developing today's vehicles, issues can happen in an instant. What good is knowing your problems without the data to solve them? Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure off-the-shelf solution, empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Performance that shines, even in the rain. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Potenza tires, improved grip in wet conditions.